Hey, welcome to the Attic Mana Dad here. Gonna look at some alchemy cards today. I know some of you hate alchemy, so just hit that thumbs down and run away. But I just am curious what they're releasing for October 2023, and maybe you are too. I want to read through the cards with us. That's what we're gonna do today. They did also debuff Orcish Bowmasters, so now it doesn't have the ping when it ETBs, so it only pings when you do the your opponent gets the extra draws, and then also the One Ring got debuffed, so you have to pay 1 mana. I think people will still play them. In fact, I was just playing some Historic, and people were still playing them. So let's take a look at the new cards for Wilds of Eldraine. I don't know if these are going to be big enough to read. Maybe I can I blow them up? Is that terrible? We got in white, Ceres, Slayer of Fear, legendary human cleric knight, a 5/5 first strike lifelink. Big Timmy card, it looks like. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, if you gained life this turn, seek a card with the highest mana value among cards in your library with mana value less than or equal to the amount of life you gained this turn. Seek a card with the highest mana value that has mana value less than or equal to the amount of life you gained. So obviously when this hits for 5 life link, you can seek a 5-drop. So way to draw cards when you're gaining life. Bit slow. Maybe in a cleric's deck is some kind of top end thing. But it looks more like a Timmy fun card that will just die to removal immediately if you try to play it in competitive. We've also got a dedicated Doll Maker, which is a 2/2 for 2, which is much better competitive stats. Enters the battlefield, exile up to one other target non-land, non-token permanent. Controller creates a token that's a copy of it, except it's not legendary. It's an artifact in addition to its other types. Okay. And then you can give tokens indestructible. Kind of cool. So you can dupe something, it's going to destroy the original, but it could be good for legendaries, right? Some kind of deck with legendaries or where you want artifacts or tokens. Kind of bargain thing, maybe. Let's see, we're in blue. We've got Conundrum of Bowls as a saga. Chapter 1, seek a card with mana value less than the number of cards in your hand. Okay. Chapter 2, seek a card with mana value greater than the number of cards in your hand. Okay. Little Goldilocks thing going on here. Chapter 3, count the number of cards in your hand. You may cast a spell with mana value equal to that number from your hand without paying its mana cost. Cool, fun card. I don't know who's going to play it exactly. 4 mana. There might be some shenanigans you can do where you force certain cards out of your deck and then get to cast them for free. So that could be interesting. Somebody will probably break it. A little bit of a combo thing, something there. Paths of Tweenvale, instant. Choose one or both. This is an uncommon too, so this should be good. Return target creature you control to its owner's hand. That card perpetually gains the spell cost 1 less to cast. And return target creature you don't control to its owner's hand. That card perpetually gains the spell cost 1 more to cast. So sort of a remake of Run Away Together, except it is better, strictly better. Because it's a one or both, and you make their stuff cost more, and you make your stuff cost less. Talion's Throne Guard. It's a fairy wizard. That's good. Would like to see fairies. 2/1 flash, bargain, flying. When Talion's Throne Guard enters the battlefield, return up to 1 target spell or non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If Talion's Throne Guard was bargained, that card perpetually gains this spell cost 2 more to cast. Okay. So, fairy flash control. It is 4 mana. Don't know how often you'll be bargaining it, but that tempo hit could be just what the doctor ordered. 4 mana, though. At 3 mana, then I'm really interested. 4 mana, I don't know. Tome of Gadwick. Whenever a quick creature deals combat damage to a player, conjure a random card from Tome of Gadwick's spellbook into your hand. Okay, maybe we'll see later what Tome of Gadwick's spellbook contains. In black, we get the Dunbarrow Revivalist at uncommon. 3/1 bargain. When it enters the battlefield, you get a 1-time boon with when 1 or more of your creatures enter the battlefield under your control, you create a wicked roll token attached to one of them. That's the one that pings for a damage when it dies. And if Dunbarrow, and it gives +1/+1. And if Dunbarrow Revivalist was bargained, return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, it's a human warlock. It's a 3/1 for 2 mana. So, good with upside. Seems good. Maybe a humans deck. The human stat, the human type there could be good. Then we got Underbridge Warlock, which is an Ogre Warlock. 5/4 Death Touch. When it enters the battlefield, you get a 1-time boon with at the beginning of your end step. If 3 or more creatures died this turn, each opponent loses 5 life. You gain 5 life. Beginning of your end step, if you have a boon, you mill 3 cards, draw a card, and lose 2 life. Interesting. So it wants you to have boons. So until you use that boon, you're going to be milling, drawing, and losing life. Interesting. I can see it being a house in limited, but I think otherwise you're gonna have to build it's have to build around the 3 or more creatures dying, and it's a 5 mana card, so not probably competitive, but could be a fun little build around in limited. Red, we've got Heir to Dragonfire. It's a 2/2 for 2. It has fire breathing and it has 2 and a red. Reveal it from your hand. It becomes a dragon, gets +3/+3, and gains flying. Holy moly! Okay, so if you want to play it on the installment plan, you got a Shivan Warlock, Shivan Dragon Warlock. Overcooked. Players can't gain life. Now that could be good. That's already immediately I'm interested in this for sideboard. But what does it do? Beginning of your end step, create a food token. If 2 or more non-land permanents enter the battlefield under your control this turn, instead conjure a card named Food Fight onto the battlefield. There's the Food Fight deck card we've been looking for. There's the Food Fight. Because Food Fight is the thing that's a 2 mana enchantment. It's 1 and a red. And it turns all your artifacts into either pay 1 or pay 2, sacrifice, deal 2 damage to any target. It deals 1 plus the number of food fights you control to any target. So if you get a couple food fights, all of a sudden all your artifacts are just like goblin grenades. Just fling them at opponent's face and win. So that could be fun. I'm interested in building that card. Overcooked. Victory of the Pyro Hammer. Got another saga. Deals 4 damage to each creature and each planeswalker. So you get it's 5 mana. It's a little board wipe. And then it gains damage isn't removed from creatures during cleanup steps. So those creatures, even if they have anything that survives, that's going to be weakened. And then you can start dealing 1 damage to each creature and each planeswalker in the last couple steps. Okay. Red decks that are interested in enchantments and board wipes, that could be something. 5 mana, I think, yeah. I mean, competitive decks are in red are doing like Brotherhood's End at 3 mana, but we'll see. Uncommon Draconic Debut. It's a sorcery. For red and an X, it deals X damage to any target, and then the next dragon creature spell you cast costs X less to cast. Love that. It's going in every dragon commander or brawl commander deck. 100%. Just a fireball that makes your dragons cheaper. There could be stuff that cares about X spells. There's that Shivan Haste Dragon that's red and X that could work with. Golden Opportunity. Got another saga in green. Conjure a card named Gilded Goose onto the battlefield. Great. You may tap an untapped bird you control and sacrifice an artifact. If you do, conjure a card named Golden Egg onto the battlefield, and you get that on turns 2 and 3. Chapters 2 and 3. Hex. Kellen's Companion. 1/1 pupper for 2 mana with haste. Whenever you cast an adventure spell, if it's on the battlefield or in exile, it perpetually gets +1/+1. Then if it's on the battlefield, exile it with a fetch counter on it. Fetch counters, not just for commander anymore. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, if Hex is in exile with a fetch counter on it, put it onto the battlefield. So it's going to charge up as it like runs out. It's like going and fetching the ball. It's a cool, flavorful design. I don't know if it's that good. You'd have to have some kind of adventure aggro thing going on. Maybe it's possible. There's a lot of new adventure cards. Also got Swine Rebellion, 3 mana sorcery. If you control 3 or more boars with different names, conjure each card from the 3 Pigs spellbook onto the battlefield. You get every card from the 3 Pigs spellbook. We'll look up what that does. You control 2 or fewer boars with different names. Conjure 2 cards from your choice from the 3 Pigs spellbook. I'm guessing the 3 Pigs spellbook is a bunch of boars. So the idea is you start getting a bunch of boars on the battlefield, and then you play this. Get a bunch more boars. Be interesting. Like we're getting a boar with first little pig, but first let's look at the accident-prone apprentice. I just saw this card for the first time playing my Is It Wizards deck, so that'll be posting soon. Check that out. Played the championship-winning historic deck Is It Wizards and destroyed on the ladder, best of 1. You know, it's a surprise, surprise. If you give me a pro deck, I can actually win with it. So blue adventure instant. Till end of turn, target creature loses all abilities, becomes a blue frog with base power and toughness 1, and then it's a 1/1 that has prowess, and that also triggers if it's in exile. But does it count its own adventure? That will be interesting to see. But it's not hasty, so it wouldn't really matter if it counted its own adventure. But I guess just because it's alchemy, they can make it trigger while it's in exile, so that's fun. Maybe there's some way to abuse that. When Drover of the Swine, we get Drover of the Swine, 2 white, black, green, so 5 total. When it enters the battlefield, choose 1. Conjure a card of your choice from the 3 Pigs spellbook onto the battlefield, and return up to 3 target boar creature cards with different names from your graveyard to the battlefield. Now that is interesting. So somebody has decided that we're going to make a Abzan Pigs deck possible in Alchemy. That'll be fun. Maybe in standard Alchemy, not in historic. I don't think is going to be. I could be wrong. Famous last words. If you want me to make a Tribal Tuesday Pigs deck, leave a comment. Let me know. First little pig, 2/2 for 2, and it exiles an artifact or enchantment. You can only do that once, but that's all you really need. That's pretty good. That's decent. There might be some decks that want a creature out of the sideboard that also has that as an ability. Maybe. Grow old together. Seek 2 creature cards from among the top 10 cards of your library, then shuffle creature cards in your hand. Potentially get +1/+. So this is the artwork is great here because it's a reference to Run Away Together from the original Eldraine. So that's cool. You get to seek 2 creature cards from among the top 10 cards of your library. You don't get to pick them. All the creatures in your hand get +1/+1. It is instant speed, but and it's Simic, so 3 mana is not really 3 mana in Simic, but still, it's not that high on that. Good for maybe that will power up Simic a little bit in the limited. High Fae Prankster, the 4 mana 1/4 flying death touch. When it enters, you choose up to 1. Perpetually exchange target creature's base power with another target creature's base power. So you can make it not 1/4, or you can give it 4/1. You can make it a 4/1. 1/4 death touch is good though, but for 4 mana and it's not instant speed, you're not going to ambush anybody. But being able to steal the power off of something, that seems pretty good. Definitely a good pick in limited. I don't know about outside of that. Maybe the fairies deck has some use for it. Probably not though. Jewel Mine Overseer, 3/3. When Jewel Mine Overseer enters the battlefield, conjure 7 cards named 7 dwarves on top of your library. They perpetually gain when this creature enters the battlefield. Draw a card, then shuffle. Great. So just live in the 7 dwarf dream. And at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. Wow. Okay. Love it. It is a human, not a dwarf. That's kind of weird. Be too powerful if you were using it in a dwarf deck? Just knowing you're going to be able to play 7 dwarves over and over and over again. Pretty good. That looks fun. I don't know. It's probably not powerful enough. If it is, it's going to get it's going to get nerfed. Outfitted Jouster. Oh, good. We got some Black-Red Knight tech here. When it enters the battlefield, you get Steel Claw Lance, which is the +2/+2 that I think equips cheaper on knights. And a card named Brawler's Plate. Huh. Is that a +3/+3? I wish they included the cards that they're related to. We might have to look at these in Arena when we get a chance here. If damage would be dealt to Outfitted Jouster while it's equipped to prevent that damage, when damage is prevented this way, sacrifice an equipment attached to Outfitted Jouster. Okay, so then you can have the equipments lose. Interesting. Have to play with it to see how good it is. It sounds too fiddly to me. Well, then it just does equip them automatically. Well, maybe it's really good. If it's getting +5/+5, and then when it's damaged, it loses an equipment. That could be really strong, actually. Pick it in limited, for sure. Porcine Portent. Lend a Ham. Instant adventure. 2 and a black. Exile target creature. You gain 1 life for each boar you control. Nice. I mean, you play that in any deck with black, and especially in limited. 3 mana instant speed exile, and then potentially gain life. And when Porcine Portent, which is an enchantment, enters the battlefield, conjure a card of your choice from 3-pig spellbook onto the battlefield, and boars you control get +1/+1. Fantastic. Slam dunk first pick limited. We don't even need to know what's in the little pig spellbook. Second little pig, the 2 mana 2/3. And it can buff up for another installment of 4 mana from a Boar Spirit with base power and toughness 4/4 and gain flying. Okay. So it's like a +2/+1 and flying for 4 mana, but you can do that instant speed, so you got that threat of activation. And limited, I mean, they can't deal with it. 4/4 flyer is going to kill people pretty fast. We got a Steady Tortoise. I'm already seeing anything adventure. I think that's good with adventures and limited is going to be good in the alchemy format of the limited, because there's so many new adventures getting added. Steady Tortoise, Harried Dash for 1 red. It's a sorcery. Create a 1/1 rabbit creature token with haste, or it gains haste until end of turn. So not going to stick around to block the Ginger Brutes. And then you get a 5 mana ward 2. Whenever it attacks, it perpetually gets +1/+1, and that also so triggers if it's in exile. Okay, whenever you attack, so it can just be sitting in exile, getting bigger, and then when you play it. And the ward 2 we've seen in this format is pretty strong. There's that 4/6 flyer that's ward 2 that's just like nearly impossible to deal with. We got the Stormkeld Curator, again 6 toughness, also really good in the limited format here. So X blue. So 2 blue and X, conjure X random cards from Giant Secret spellbook into your hand. It's going to be essentially a draw. Probably use it on 2 or it's instant speed. You might use it just to 3 mana get a giant to your hand. But you can get a ton of cards into your hand. And then when it enters the battlefield, you may put any number of aura cards from your graveyard and or hand onto the battlefield attached to it. That could be abused too. There's some really pretty powerful auras. 6 mana. Definitely a good limited card. I don't know. Being able to put auras from your graveyard and or hand attached automatically. Just a haste one. That's pretty strong. Sir Joshua and Sir Joshua and Sir Saxon. I said Sir Joshua and Sir Jackson. Joshua Jackson. What up, Pacey? Legendary creature, human knight, double team. If you control exactly 2 permanents named Sir Joshua and Sir Jackson, the legend rule doesn't apply to them. So the moment you get a third one, you lose 2 of them. Or you lose the one, then you control 2, and then it doesn't trigger, maybe? Each other creature you control named Sir Joshua and Sir Saxon has Battle Cry, which is the when it attacks alone, it gets +1/+0. Or it gives attacking creatures +1/+0. I'm not sure. But double team, I mean, 2 mana, 2/3. As these alchemy cards always are, it's a slam dunk limited. And then green white knights could be a thing with a good 2-drop like this. Some kind of green white aggro knights thing. With Sir Farron the Henge Hammer, maybe? I don't know. Worth looking into. We get a third little pig. Whenever you conjure one or more other cards, third little pig perpetually gets +1/+1. This ability also triggers if it's in your graveyard. Okay. So green black conjure deck. Land. We get a captivating crossroads. During the first 3 turns of the game, it enters the battlefield tapped if you were the starting player. Okay, and then it's just choose a color, add the mana of the chosen color. So pretty good that it's untapped if you're on the draw, because I'm always on the draw. That's how I feel. Lac Larant. Lac Larant enters the battlefield tapped, adds a blue, and then for 1 and a blue, tap Scry 3. Like a 3-mana Scry 3, then an opponent's going to get a boon that when they cast a creature spell, that creature enters the battlefield tapped with a stun counter. That seems very that's uncommon. That seems very strong for control decks, even beyond limited potentially. It is a tap land. But if you're just holding up mana and they do nothing, then like what are they going to do once they get a bunch of creatures to drop? Okay, so here's the spellbook. Tome of Gadwick. You have Preordain, Ponder, Opt, Consider, Seer of Visions, Brainstorm, Thought Scour, Sleight of Hand, Peek, Quicken, Obsessive Search, and Piece It Together. So, what I don't know is Piece It Together. It's another alchemy card. Once you get it to 4, you take an extra turn, so that's kind of cool. Obsessive Search is draw a card, Madness blue. Quicken's going to be something flash, draw a card. Peek, look at a hand, draw a card. Sleight of Hand, you're going to pick from top 2 cards of your library. Mill 2, draw a card. Brainstorm, so it's all just hand-trippy stuff. Maybe in the right deck. Although you have to equip this. I mean, great for limited, for sure. And then the Giant Secrets, so all that glitters, great enchantment. Ethereal Armor is great enchantment. Curiosity. Very strong enchantments. So this Giant's coming down like with a Curator's Ward. It's a hexproof. And if it leaves the battlefield, draw 2 cards. I guess it's not historic though. It comes down with hexproof, 6/6 hexproof. Hard to deal with. Celestial Mantle, +3/+3, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, double its controller's life total. Make a copy. That's probably the worst one you can get. I've tried to make this work in Commander, Metamorphic Alteration. It's hard. +1/+0 can't be blocked. Face of Divinity. First 2/2, and then potentially first strike lifelink if you can get another aura on it. Rousing Reed. This was a limited all-star. Get to loot, and then +1/+1 and flying. Take Flight and Knightly Valor is currently in the set. Okay, 3 pigs. So the 3 pigs spellbook is just the 3 pigs. Interesting. Thought it would be other famous boars from Magic. And conjured cards. Okay, yeah, here. So Gilded Goose, as you probably know, is an 0/2 flyer that enters with the food token, and it can make food, or it can sacrifice food to tap for mana, like a freaking Birds of Paradise. And the Golden Egg is a food that draws you a card when it enters, and you can sacrifice it to filter mana, or sacrifice it to gain life. And Food Fight. These artifacts you control have 2. Sacrifice its artifact. It deals damage to any target equal to 1 plus the number of permanents named Food Fight. I think I explained it better before. So Steelclaw Lance. This is okay. We're gonna see. +2/+2, and Brawler's Blade is +2/+2. Okay, so that is a 4 mana 6/6. It starts to tick down once it takes damage. You have to sacrifice the equipment, so. And then 7 dwarves are 2/2s. They get +1/+1 for each other creature named 7 dwarves. And a deck can have up to 7 cards named 7 dwarves, but if you're blinking your Jewel Mind Overseer, a deck's going to have a lot more than 7. So that's cool. So we got that going for us, which is nice. There we go. That has been a review of the Alchemy updates for October 2023. Thanks for everyone who sat through this. Check out some of these other cool decks that I've been playing lately that are linked over there. And this is Mana Dad reminding you that Magic is a game so fun, even dads can enjoy it. Adios.